Hello and welcome back to Man and Sloth News. I am Man and this here is my associate Sloth, and today we will be discussing Latin American rights. Now, let's hop right into it, shall we? The history of Latin American rights has been a tough one that is still being made today. Latinos continue to fight for their equality and organizations help those who can't help themselves. Bills are still being formed to help these men and women, but only one can wonder, when will world equality finally be in our sight? Latinos make up about 19% of the American population, and they deserve to be recognized and represented equally and properly. Now, a little bit of history about this topic. Going back over a century ago to 1910, the Mexican Revolution forces Mexicans to cross the border. These immigrants were seeking safety and even new jobs. Now, 7 years later, in 1917, the U.S. Congress passes the Jones-Shafroth Act. This gives citizenship to Puerto Ricans under U.S. military control, considering that the Spanish-American War had just come to an end. Now, in 1921, the San Antonio's Orden Hijos de America, Order of Sons of America Act, organizes Latino workers to raise awareness of civil rights issues and fight for fair wages, education, and housing. Now, in 1924, the Immigration Act of 1924 limits the arrival of Southern and Eastern Europeans. Along with this, agricultural businesses limit the immigration of Mexicans. Now, in 1921, a few Latino communities united to form the League of United Latin American Citizens, also known as LULAC. This group fights against discrimination and segregation and promotes education for Latinos. It's the biggest and the earliest Latino civil rights group in the entire country. Now, what do you have to say about that, Sloth? Completely agree. Alright, 1944. The first Fair Employment Practices Bill is promoted by Senator Dennis Chavez of New Mexico, which bans discrimination of race, creed, or national origin. The bill is not successful, however, it is a very important stepping stone for the 1964 Civil Rights Act. Now, 1945. The Mexican-American parents of California began to sue several school districts because they were sending Latino students to separate schools. The California Supreme Court answers favoring the parents of Mendez v. Westminster. This case was a very important stepping stone and a reference for the Brown v. Board of Education Supreme Court case of 1954. Now, another case in 1954 was the Hernandez v. Texas case, also known as the first and only Mexican-American civil rights case heard during the post-World War II period. This finally brought equal rights to Latinos by declaring that all racial groups have equal protection under the 14th Amendment. Now, 2006. Many Latino immigrants and others contributed to the Day Without Immigrations, where they boycotted work, school, and shopping. This showed how important these immigrants were to the American economy. Now, 2006 as well, the U.S. Congress argues legislation that would criminalize undocumented immigrants. The immigrant rights organizations collaborated with alternative legislation which offered a pathway to citizenship. The legislation stands by, and Congress decides to have hearings across the country to show how to handle immigration properly. Now, that's just a bit of information dating from 1910 to 2006, so about a century years worth of history. That's pretty interesting. Sloth, any words? Let's write that. Alright. Like I said at the beginning, Latino rights is still something that's being fought for to this very day. And there are many organizations and acts that are still being created. One organization is called COPL-MN. COPL-MN is a Latino rights organization that was formed which is aimed at collecting power and creating opportunities for Latin American families. They have an entire website and YouTube channel dedicated to reaching out to any families in need. They have listed steps on the website that families can take if they need any help. This next one is called Latino Victory Fund, which is another organization that deals with Latino rights. This organization primarily aims at growing Latino political power by increasing the representation that Latinos have in the government.
We at Latino Victory Fund are doing our part by electing progressives to serve as a check on this racist administration in the midterms until we can take back the White House in 2020. Latino Victory works to increase Latino political power by supporting progressive Latino candidates and by aggressively opposing those candidates who don't reflect our values. Because we're under attack, we need a dedicated voice in our democracy to fight back and elect candidates to help flip the House and to take back the Senate. And we're good at it. While the presidential election was a setback, we've been careful not to lose sight of the ground gained. In 2016, we won 70% of our races. We helped elect the first Latina U.S. Senator, the first Dominicano, the first Dreamer to Congress, the first Puerto Rican Congressman from Florida, the first Latina Speaker of the House in Colorado, and even the first state senator elected in Nebraska, among other victories up and down the ballot. While we are a fast-growing community, an entire 18% of the population, we're just 1% of all elected officials, and it's even lower for Latinas.
Lastly, we have a very recent event that took place with President Biden signing the American Rescue Plan. This allows Latino families to support themselves through the pandemic, and it also aids them in any economic struggles that they may have.
Thank you for coming in. In the weeks that this bill has been discussed and debated, it's clear that an overwhelming percentage of the American people, Democrats, Independents, our Republican friends, have made it clear, the people out there, made it clear they strongly support the American Rescue Plan. Yesterday, with the final passage of the plan in the House of Representatives, their voices were heard and reflected in everything we have in this bill. And I believe this is, and most people I think do as well, this historic legislation is about rebuilding the backbone of this country and giving people in this nation, working people, middle-class folks, people who built the country, a fighting chance. That's what the essence of it is. And I'm going to have a lot more to say about that tonight and the next couple days and be able to take your questions. But in the meantime, what I'm going to do is sign this bill and make the presentation tonight. And then there's going to be plenty of opportunities. We're going to be on the road not only talking about, what I'm talking about tonight is the impact on the virus and how we're going to end this pandemic. And we're going to talk all the elements of the bill beginning Friday and Saturday and through the week. So, thank you for being here. Got it. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for listening to today's news. I am Man, this is Slav, and we'll be signing out. Stay tuned in for next time.